Now get ready for an adrenaline rush. Sylvester Stallone's Rambo series has shown incredible staying power, and while it's known for its intense action, in 1982, Sylvester Stallone's Rambo made his first appearance in the movie First Blood, which was adapted from David Morrell's novel published in 1972. This portrayal of Rambo quickly became one of the most legendary action heroes of the 1980s. After the release of Rambo 3 in 1988, it seemed like the franchise had come to an end. However, Stallone surprised everyone by bringing back Rambo in 2008 and then again in 2019 with Rambo Last Blood, more than a decade later. The title of the latest installment seemed quite conclusive, but fans have always wondered, will there ever be a Rambo 6? Sylvester Stallone hung up his combat boots after Rambo Last Blood, but could there be a chance for a follow-up, or perhaps a fresh start with a different actor? Let's delve into the latest gossip, Stallone's thoughts on the franchise, and what lies ahead for Rambo. Rambo is said to be a classic bone-shot action movie, but in reality, the movie talks about the dehumanizing effect warfare can have on the men and women forced to kill or be killed. The audience took Rambo as a testament to the true effect of war. In 1982, the name John Rambo was echoing, the man who single-handedly took down the US Army. Now, the movie series has its place in the hearts of movie enthusiasts. Rambo First Blood was released in 1982. The movie, directed by Ted Kotcheff, showed a man who gained glory and prestige from battle, but in the process lost his humanity and sanity. It is a film co-written by Sylvester Stallone and James Cameron based on the 1972 novel by David Morrell. John J. Rambo is a former U.S. Special Forces soldier who fought in Vietnam, but his time in Vietnam still haunts him. As he comes to Hope, Washington, to visit a friend, he is guided out of town by Sheriff William Teasle, played by Brian Dennehy, who insults Rambo, but Teasle does not know that his insult angers Rambo to the point where Rambo becomes violent and was arrested. As the county jail is being cleaned, he escapes and goes through the forest to escape from the sheriffs who want to beat him to death. Then, Rambo's commanding officer, Colonel Samuel Trotman, played by Richard Crenna, tries to save both the sheriff's department and Rambo before the situation gets out of hand. By the end of the film, Stallone has taken over a whole town and becomes a one-person army, conducting a military operation against the police station and exploding the gas station pumps. Since then, Rambo has become a hero for the audience. The movie was critically acclaimed as a sharp thriller about dislocated souls in the heart of America. In the second part, Colonel Sam Trotman, Rambo's former commanding officer, pulls him out of jail to send him back to a place he swore he will never return to, which is Vietnam. He was given the task of collecting evidence about American POWs being held captive. Rambo agrees to infiltrate the unknown zone, but later in the movie, he finds himself double-crossed, isolated behind the enemy lines. But as the movie comes to the climax, the government leaves him for dead in a Soviet-infested land. The movie came to an end when he finally escaped from Vietnam along with the POWs. As the movie goes to the third part, Colonel Sam Trotman returns to Thailand to once again enlist the help of John J. Rambo, who has settled in the country since the events of First Blood Part 2. He asks Rambo to join him on a mission to Afghanistan. When Rambo refuses, Trotman chooses to go on his own. However, John will return to action when his grizzled mentor gets trapped behind the enemy lines in Soviet-invaded Afghanistan after a botched attempt to aid the remaining rebel pockets. Then Rambo makes his way to the Russian base and starts to plan to free Trotman. The first attempt was unsuccessful. The next day, Rambo returns to the base to rescue Trotman from being tortured. After saving several other prisoners, Rambo steals a Mi-24 helicopter and escapes from the base. However, the helicopter is damaged as it departs and soon crashes, forcing Rambo and Trotman to continue on foot. They are confronted by the Russian-Soviet army of tanks headed by Zaysen. In the ensuing battle, both Trotman and John get wounded, but Rambo somehow manages to kill Zaysen. At the end of the battle, Rambo and Trotman leave Afghanistan to go home. After the battle of life and death, in Rambo 4, trouble finds its way to John Rambo. A group of Christian human rights missionaries brought by Michael Burnett and Sarah Miller approached Rambo with a request to rent his boat to travel up the river to Burma, which had been a war zone for a while. After some inner thoughts, Rambo accepts their offer and takes Michael and the rest of them up the river. The missionaries arrive at the Karen village in Burma, and they find themselves part of a raid by Major Pati Tint and the Burmese army. They were tortured and viciously murdered. Rambo emerged in time to kill all the soldiers with his bow and arrow, allowing the hostages to escape unharmed. From there, the movie goes into the flow of surprise attacks by Rambo on Tint's soldiers. After realizing his defeat, Tint attempts to escape, but Rambo intercepts and disembowels him dead with his machete. As the movie ends, Rambo returns to the United States. When it comes to Rambo 5 Last Blood, Sylvester Stallone yet again returns as one of the greatest action heroes of all time, John Rambo. Rambo now breeds and trains horses along with his old friend Maria Beltran and Gabriella, who is Maria's granddaughter, played by Yvette Monreal. The movie takes a turn when Gabriela learns about her father Miguel in Mexico. She secretly drives to Mexico to encounter him. The enforcers of a Mexican cartel later kidnapped heartbroken Gabriela. The movie slowly develops as Rambo travels to Mexico to find Gabriela. Rambo is confronted and beaten to death by the cartel led by two brothers named Hugo and Victor Martinez. Rambo later bashed one of the brothers and killed several men until he found an unconscious Gabriela. On the way back home, Rambo thanks her for giving him hope for 10 years before she dies from a forced overdose. The movie comes to an end when Rambo returns to Mexico to take revenge on the Martinez brothers. Rambo mutilates them and rips their hearts out. A weakened Rambo sitting on the porch of his father's house, vowing to continue fighting for his loved ones alive, is still living inside the Rambo fans' hearts. And now it's time for the fighter to return. Even though Stallone has said he's hanging up the franchise, fans are still speculating about Rambo 6. Fans are expecting a return since Sylvester Stallone has a history of returning to characters. After 1988's Rambo 3, the franchise was thought done. That is until Stallone brought back Rambo in 2008 and once more over a decade later in 2019's Rambo Last Blood, which was quite a surprise for the movie world. Is it confirmed? Rambo 6 isn't confirmed, and there are currently no plans to greenlight a sequel to 2019's Rambo Last Blood. Sylvester Stallone recently made it clear in an interview at the 2023 Toronto International Film Festival that he has no intentions of revisiting the franchise anytime soon. Even though the fans are still demanding the return of Rambo, his age plays as the key reason for not playing Rambo again. Rambo, I could leave him. He's done pretty much. Even though they want to do another one, what am I fighting? Arthritis? He said in the interview. Even though there is no confirmation about a sixth installment, the movie world has already started speculating about the plot. There are two directions as a Rambo 6 plot could take off as now. John Rambo may drift into the new situation, or it could be a prequel focusing on Rambo's time in Vietnam. The audience has always wanted a prequel that showcases the character's transformation from an all-American golden boy to a broken warrior. Stallone himself had expressed interest in a Rambo prequel, but the possibility of such a prequel is questionable. Another route Rambo 6 could take is reviving the cancelled version of Rambo 5 developed by Stallone and First Blood author David Morrell. Even though Stallone's performance is the flesh and blood of the movie, many action franchises have proven that they can survive a cast change of similar magnitudes. For example, multiple actors have played Tom Clancy's character Jack Ryan, and each has brought their shade to the role. There is no reason the story of John Rambo can't be retold similarly. When it comes to the cast, there is only one key question about the cast of Rambo 6. Will Sylvester Stallone return to play John Rambo for one last time? Based on his response, that seems highly unlikely. Therefore, John Rambo may need a recast. However, the acceptance of such a character is uncertain among the audience if such a discussion about the next John Rambo happens. In terms of a recast, there is a list of names in front of the franchise like John Cena, Reacher's Alan Ritchson, and Henry Cavill. There is no reason that they couldn't step into Stallone's shoes for Rambo 6. The movie world is not yet ready to give up on John Rambo. Even though the chances are narrow, we're sure about one thing: the wait will be worth it. Thanks a bunch for hanging out and exploring the narrow possibilities of Rambo 6 with us. If you had a blast like we did, show some love with that like button and subscribe now to stay connected with the upcoming movie news. Until we meet again.